You've probably been here. Your team ran a pilot. Maybe it was a chatbot for customer queries, maybe an automated reporting workflow, maybe an AI supposed to cut down time on something repetitive. The demo looked great, the business case made sense, but 6 months later, nobody's using it. If that's familiar, you are not the problem, and neither is your team. In July 2025, MIT's NANDA initiative published one of the most significant AI studies that I've seen. They looked at over 300 real AI deployments. They interviewed 150 executives, and their headline finding was this: 95% of generative AI pilots produced zero measurable financial return. But the same report also contains the answer, because buried inside all that data is a precise breakdown of what the 5% that do succeed have in common. And it's not about budget, and it's not about having a dedicated AI team. It's not even about picking the right model. Today, I'm walking through 5 of those patterns, in plain English with real examples, and in a way you can actually apply. Let's get into it. The first thing the MIT study makes clear, and this lines up with what I see consistently in practice, is that the technology is almost never the reason these projects fail. The models are capable, the tools work. The problem is almost always upstream. MIT's researchers identified what they called a learning gap. Not in the AI, but in the organizations deploying it. Most enterprise AI systems don't retain feedback. They don't adapt to context, and they don't improve over time. They're basically static. They generate an output on Monday and the same output on Friday, regardless of what happened in between. Think of it like hiring a consultant who never reads your previous work. Every meeting starts from zero. Great at their job in isolation, useless as an ongoing system. But there's a second structural problem, and this one surprised me, even knowing this data going in. The study found that more than half of enterprise AI budgets are concentrated in sales and marketing, lead generation, copywriting tools, automated outreach. That's where most of the investment is going. And yet, MIT found the highest measurable ROI, the clearest, most consistent financial return in back office automation, finance, operations, procurement, and document processing. The stuff that doesn't get showcased at conferences, the stuff that looks boring on a slide deck. In my experience, this tracks. I've seen businesses spend months building AI tools for outbound sales, and I understand the instinct. I've done it myself, and it feels like the highest leverage point. But those workflows involve judgment, tone, relationship, and context. The AI does fine on volume, but it struggles on nuance. Meanwhile, the invoice matching, the contract review, the status report that someone manually pulls together every Friday, those processes have defined inputs, defined outputs, and almost no tolerance for ambiguity. That's where AI is genuinely strong. And then there's what I think of as the we'll build it ourselves trap. The MIT data is pretty clear on this. Internally built AI projects succeed at roughly half the rate of projects delivered in partnership with external vendors. Now, that's not because external vendors are magic, but because a good implementation partner has already hit the same walls you're about to hit. They've debugged the integration. They've run into the edge cases. They've done it before. Going it alone means learning those lessons the expensive way. Pattern 1, choose the right problem first. Pattern 1 almost sounds too obvious to say out loud, but it's the most commonly violated rule I see. The businesses that succeed start with a specific, clearly defined problem, and they don't pick the AI tool until they've articulated what success looks like. Here's a concrete example of what the wrong way looks like. A business hears about an AI that can handle customer queries. They buy it, they run a pilot, and then 6 weeks in, someone asks, what are we actually measuring? Nobody has a clear answer. So they measure volume. How many queries got handled? And the number looks good, but the queries that mattered, the complex ones, the edge cases that required judgment, those are still landing on a human's desk. And now the human's time is split between doing their job and cleaning up what the AI got wrong. The 5% that succeed define the problem before they define the solution. They know which specific process is failing, why it's failing, and what a solved version looks like, and how they'll measure whether the AI is actually solving it. That's not a technology decision. That's an operations decision. And it happens before anyone's written a line of code or signs a software contract. Pattern 2, treat adoption as the project. If you ask almost any operator what went wrong with their AI pilot, they'll give you a technical answer. The integration broke, or the outputs weren't reliable, or the model made stuff up. And sometimes those things are true, but more often what actually happened is the team never really adopted the thing. They tried it for a week, reverted to the old way, and that was that. But what I see in projects that work is that adoption is treated as the actual project, not as something that happens naturally after the go live. There are training sessions, not as a one-time event, but as an ongoing thing. There are specific, named people responsible for the AI working. There's a feedback loop, someone whose job it is to listen to what the team says isn't working and fix it. Think about what it costs when adoption fails. If you spend 3 months building an AI workflow and nobody uses it after week 2, you haven't saved any time at all. You've added 2 months of distraction, and in my experience, that's actually more common than anyone admits. The 5% that are successful treat change management as a core deliverable, not a nice to have. Pattern 3, automate systems, not tasks. Here's a distinction that I think explains a lot of failed pilots. Most businesses approach AI automation the same way they approach hiring a virtual assistant. If you give it a task, it does the task. Reply to this email, generate this report, pull this data, and AI can do all those things. But a collection of tasks isn't a system. And when your automated tasks don't connect to each other, when the output of step 1 doesn't automatically feed step 2, you end up with a patchwork that creates as much manual work as it removes. The businesses that are genuinely getting ROI have built workflows, not just tools. The customer query gets handled by the AI, but the response also updates the CRM and triggers a follow-up task if it's unresolved and flags anything unusual for a human to review. It's one connected process, not 5 separate ones that a human has to manually bridge. This distinction also explains why so many AI tools underdeliver. You can buy the best individual component in the world. If it doesn't connect to anything, it doesn't compound. The 5% aren't just buying tools, they're building infrastructure. Pattern 4, define ROI before you build. If someone asked you tomorrow to prove that your AI project is paying off, could you? Not a general answer, a specific one. Hours saved per week, cost reduction per quarter. Something you can point to in a spreadsheet and defend. An IBM survey of 2,000 CEOs published in 2025 found that just 1 in 4 AI projects delivers the return it promised, and only 16% of AI initiatives get scaled across the enterprise. That's not mostly a technology problem. That's mostly a measurement problem. Businesses can't defend funding something they can't prove is working. Here's a simple version of how the 5% think about this from day one. Let's say you're looking at automating a weekly operations report that currently takes 2 people, 3 hours each to compile. That's 6 hours a week. Over a year, 312 hours, about 8 weeks. Just one report. If automating that costs you £20,000 to implement and the automation runs for 2 years, you've spent $20,000 to free up roughly 16 weeks of skilled operations time. At any reasonable day rate, that pays back in months. The 5% build that calculation before the project starts, and they revisit it every month. It's not about justifying the decision after the fact, it's about knowing what you're aiming at. An AI project without a defined ROI target is a pilot in name only. Sooner or later, someone in finance is going to ask the question. The businesses that succeed have the answer ready. Pattern 5, keep a human in the loop. On purpose. Now, you probably remember when Klarna made headlines in 2024 for replacing 700 customer service staff with an AI chatbot. The headline numbers looked impressive. The AI handled millions of conversations across 35 languages in the first month alone. Now, Klarna's CEO publicly declared that AI could already do every job a human does. But by May 2025, the same CEO was telling Bloomberg that the company had gone too far. The customer satisfaction had dropped. The AI handled volume well, but it couldn't handle the nuance, the refund disputes, the complex payment issues, the moments where what the customer actually needed was someone to listen and use judgment. Klarna reversed the hiring freeze and started recruiting human agents again. Now, Klarna isn't a cautionary tale about AI. It's a cautionary tale about where you remove the human from the loop. They automated the wrong decisions. The AI was excellent at answering simple, structured queries. It was not equipped to handle the moments where brand trust, emotional intelligence, and contextual judgment were what the customer needed, and the business paid the price in satisfaction scores and brand damage. The 5% who are successful design their AI systems with deliberate human checkpoints, not because they don't trust the AI, but because they understand where it's strong and where it isn't. High volume, structured, low-stakes task route through the automation. Edge cases, high-risk decisions, and anything involving relationship or judgment routes to a human. The automation doesn't replace the human layer, it handles the easy 80%, so the human can focus on the difficult 20%, where they actually add value. Now, that's not a compromise, that's just a better system. What this means for your business. So here's what I take from this, if you're running or planning an AI initiative inside your business. The 95% failure rate isn't a reason to pull back from AI. It's simply a map of where projects go wrong. And every single failure mode in that MIT data is avoidable. There's also something in that data that doesn't get talked about enough. The MIT study found that mid-market businesses scaled their AI pilots in an average of around 90 days. Large enterprises took 9 months or more, not because mid-market businesses are smarter or better funded, but because they move faster. They have shorter decision chains and can get the right people in a room without scheduling 3 weeks of calendar negotiations. Now, if you're in that bracket, that's an advantage worth using. If I was starting an AI project tomorrow, I would ask myself 5 questions before doing anything else. What specific problem are we solving, and how will we know when it's solved? Who owns the adoption? not the tool, the adoption. What connected workflow does this sit inside? Not just what task does it perform? What does the ROI calculation look like from day one? And where does a human stay in the loop? Not as a fallback, but as a designed part of the system. If you want a structured way to work through those questions, particularly the ROI piece and figuring out which processes in your business are actually worth automating, there is a free calculator at our website, aiaio.me. What strikes me most about the MIT research isn't the 95% number, as striking as it is. It's what it says about why businesses fail with AI. Almost nobody fails because the technology doesn't work. They fail because they treated an infrastructure decision like a software purchase. They expected it to plug in and deliver without ever rethinking how the work actually flows. The businesses that are genuinely getting value from AI aren't necessarily the ones with the most sophisticated tools. They're the ones who understand the problem before they chose to build the solution, built the measurement from day one, and kept a human in the loop where it actually matters. That's not a technical capability, that is an operational one, and it's available to any business that's willing to think about it clearly. If this was useful, I'd genuinely appreciate a like or a share. It helps this reach more operators who are working through the same questions. And if you're in that situation right now, drop a comment. I'll read them and I'll do my best to answer. See you in the next one.